Hammer's Law. Those wielding new tools with great leverage displace those who wield old tools with mastery. Hammer's Law corollary. The shifting of technologies creates ebbs and flows of demand and expertise, where those who are initiated can leapfrog into a new niche. Hi, my name is Hassan Hammer. I'm an aerospace engineer turned project management consultant. I run the deadlyconsultant.com blog, the job board on that blog, and its associated training program that trains AI-proof data and fintech project management consultants to land 10K per month plus contracts. I have over 10 years of experience in the industry. I have professional certifications, project management professional, professional scrum master, Azure Cloud Architect, my engineering degree, and I have turned my credentials and experience into a program. Today, we're going to be talking about strategy, specifically the strategy guide to AI deployment and BI-FinTech project management consulting. What is AI orchestration project management? Or what is AI deployment project management? And what is BI-FinTech project management consulting? AI orchestration project management is an evolution of the BI-FinTech consulting domain. And BI-FinTech consulting, that's business intelligence, finance technology consulting. This is an umbrella term for a class of high-paying jobs that exist globally. Anywhere you have a downtown-like environment and an enterprise software industry, you will find these roles. They are a combination of domain expertise and project management consulting skills. Some examples of domain expertise is as follows. It could be something like construction project managers, but for our purpose, these are out of scope. Unless it's costing or construction software project management. Another example is healthcare software project managers. And the most relevant example to us is software project managers in fintech. And we focus on these because fintech and banking products are almost all software. When it comes to fintech, enterprise software takes care of an intertwined system of operations. Whether you're an analyst working on the software vendor side or working on the client business side, or implementing software features such as OCR for image check recognition, so you no longer have to go into the branch, you can just take a picture and send it, or in the business asset arm for trading securities like stocks, bonds, and so on, or you might be working with the real estate arm, calculating risk to reward tables for lending operations. Or maybe you're handling one of the various auxiliary operations associated with wealth management investing purposes. With all of these, what it comes down to is the software needs to work or the business comes to a stop. The software also needs to evolve with the business and the technology trends. For example, when cloud computing came out, a bulk of the software projects were cloud infrastructure projects, meaning you were doing setup or migration projects to the cloud. You were taking local data centers, on-prem as they call it, for on-premises, and you were taking them to the cloud with varying setups such as full migrations or maybe partial migrations, where some of the data stays on the data center and the rest of it goes to the cloud using a secure, non-public facing internet. For example, using technology such as Azure Express Route offered by internet service providers. And then you had to deal with the second order consequences of this new migration. For example, original enterprise applications were designed to run on data centers, and they were designed before cloud technology came out. So you were faced with the decision. Do you lift and shift your data center app directly to the cloud unoptimized, or do you re-architect it so it is cloud native. The best practice is to re-architect it. So this was the activity environment, and project managers, developers, business analysts, they hummed along, migrating scores of enterprise applications as millions of data centers took flight to the cloud. These shifts in technology are a double-edged sword. They create a new opportunity at the cost of retiring data technology and associated expertise. For example, network engineers were replaced or morphed into cloud architects, one of my areas of expertise. We learned things like scaling up, scaling down, idempotent infrastructure, as they call it, invented to combat the problem of virtual machine configuration drift, which is when a VM slowly changes over time as files pile up, updates are applied, and one-off problems are fixed. But you want to be able to spin up the original in an instant, always saving the specs on an ARM template and not on the individual machine level. This was new knowledge territory outside the scope of network engineering. Those that did not upgrade their knowledge were slowly phased out during the cloud adoption trend. And this didn't happen via a billboard, but it fizzled out naturally as demand flatlined and supply exceeded what the market needed. The shifting of technologies creates ebbs and flows of demand for those who are able to combine preparation with opportunity can find themselves occupying a new niche by filling a new market need. So it pays to play at the frontier of innovation, and when done right, you can catch long entrenched incumbents slipping. As the saying goes, the early bird gets the worm. Another example is BI tools. That's business intelligence tools. Think of them as tools that integrate various data sources together through a process called extraction, where you connect to a data source through an address called an OData feed or a similarly designed interface. You then transform the incoming data stream through massaging it so it can be stacked with other data streams, or it can be put into the cloud warehouse, which is like a very fast hard drive on the internet for later use. Usually, you're defining steps to deal with simple things like formatting issues, such as one stream using commas instead of spaces for triple-digit numbers. This can break everything. Simple, but tedious. Once you get it right, it can always run through the exact same steps from source to online data warehouse, and you can combine data from multiple sources into one. Data warehouse, data lake, same concept. And once you have a combined area with many data sources showing up together, you have now what's called business intelligence. It sounds more fancy than it is, but it solves a huge problem of systems not being able to communicate each other or communicating with a large delay. Another way to think of it is as data source integration. This may not seem special right away to the untrained, but this was a huge change. Imagine owning all of the McDonald's, for example, thousands of restaurants, where the point of sale system numbers must be communicated to head office. If all of the numbers showed up instantly, even in just a spreadsheet, you could move much faster than, say, if each store kept it locally and had to provide an Excel report with month-end numbers, and then you needed an analyst to crunch it all together via scripting and then present it to the head office. The later scenario would add 1 month in time. This big change replaced technical expertise such as VBA scripting developers who essentially did the same thing but through script. The barrier to entry to do this was much more difficult because they needed to have advanced skills to do their job well. They may need to have 10 years of experience, but suddenly found themselves being replaced by those who knew BI tools. Tools such as Microsoft's Power BI, or Tableau, or data warehousing, or Azure Databricks or Snowflake, and so on. Power BI is something you will become an expert at. I'm an expert on it. I designed a 200 labor hour system and cut my teeth really wrestling with it. That's the real way to learn. You have to wrestle with it. We'll do this through one of our exercises, which is creating a PPM software, that's project portfolio management, which will give you vendor grade chops for later on. In fact, before I pivoted to this training program, my previous initiative was a software implementation company that did just that, implement custom software for organizations struggling with using Excel. Excel is often used as a solution for small to medium-sized organizations, 100 to 200 resources in total, where a similar situation presents itself. Suppose 20 people, project managers, directors, and so on, having 20 Excel files, each tracking numbers, forecast, actual, variance, and then scripting is needed by a VBA developer to compile everything and put it together. And by the time this is all done, the data has already changed. So that process is always a step behind. Then tools like Power BI gave a direct frontline pulse to an otherwise black box. You'll build this with me. A scaled down version, not 200 hours, a weekend build, and without some of the advanced features like timesheets, but still one that can rival vendors in the software market today, with competitive to products such as SenseIQ or Microsoft's, that's with a W, custom PPM solution, or PPM Express's solution, who all employ a similar process of data integration. So the wielders of these new tools can displace those with 10 years of experience with just 1 year of experience due to the leverage the new tools offer. And I found this out firsthand as I suggested Power BI instead of VBA scripts to an organization, and they said, if I can make it work, go for it. I was hired as the VBA scripter for that role, but no matter how good you were at scripting data integration through VBA, you probably hated it a little bit. It had to be done offline. Changes to the data source, such as people changing columns in their Excel sheet, which they do all the time, just broke your entire code, and your scripts, small changes wreaked havoc on them. The process could be effective with tight project controls in place, such as upstream data schema monitoring. But no one wants to do all of that. They have real project work to do, revenue raising work to do. The new tools were just so much better, like taking a jet aircraft instead of a bike, and the old method fell apart. This brings me to Hammer's Law. Those that wield the new tools that offer great leverage displace those who wield old tools with mastery. You can run a 10-year VBA scripter out of business with 2 weeks of Power BI cramming. That is how much of an advantage knowing a new tool can give you. And then Hammer's Law corollary. The shifting of technologies creates ebbs and flows of demand and expertise where those who are initiated can find themselves leapfrogging into a new niche. Even as beginners against old entrenched masters. So it pays to learn. The basis of the AI/BI-FinTech consulting strategy is Hammer's Law and its corollary. Tools offer leverage. It's the foundation of mastery and a large part of what makes us human at the top of the food chain. Even though we were physically weak, I do hope you exercise, by the way, it is such an advantage. Even though we were physically weak, it's the mastery of our tools that give us a great advantage. And also being social animals. And that's why I have the book Mastery right here behind me. I take these lessons from that book. Supreme mastery of our tools is in alignment with our ancestral roots dating back more than 500,000 years. And such alignment promotes the best well-being. So it pays to be a master of your domain. Tools offer leverage. For example, communication, delivering a letter. You could do it by walking, or you could do it by a bike, much faster. Or you could use a DHL plane and deliver it in bulk. for many people. Or you could use a telephone. Or you could use an internet plus a web page. Leverage. The example I give above is BI versus VBA devs and network engineers versus cloud architects. Those examples are analogous to the trend now happening in companies across the globe where tactical tasks, spreadsheet work, manual tasks like creating schedules, making reports, ledger work, is being displaced by agentic AI and hybrid AI teams and other intelligence-infused automation tools. This is where BI-FinTech and AI orchestration deployment, project management consulting work comes in. The market is ebbing and flowing once again, and this is as the tectonic plates of technology shift rapidly underneath us, displacing deep-rooted niches. Extinction versus opportunity once again. History repeats itself. We can see this with contradictory statistics such as McKinsey saying 50% headcount reduction by 2028 to 2030 and 175 million new AI orchestration roles. The data is clear. We face a double-edged sword once again. Tactical roles are out. The new opportunity lies in roles that service the new change. That is AI orchestration and deployment project management. And the nuanced characteristic of these changes is exactly why leaders like Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan, says schools and degrees are not teaching people what they need to know. People are left to their own devices to figure it out. And because of this, degrees are not getting jobs. They are selling a reputation which does not prep the student for what the job market wants, and the job market remains with opportunities that go unfulfilled. This is the problem my Accelerator aims to solve, and this is the backdrop in which we view BI-FinTech and AI orchestration roles, which is through Hammer's Law. Again, those wielding new tools with great leverage displace those who wield old tools with mastery. One more time, because it is the foundation of the strategy, Hammer's Law corollary, the shifting of technologies creates ebbs and flows of expertise and demand, where those who are initiated can very well find themselves leapfrogging into a new niche. Now, before moving on to examples and skill sets needed, I'm going to differentiate between vertical market software and horizontal market software. So we have a lens in which we can look at this opportunity. Vertical market software is applications such as Word, Microsoft Excel, Spotify, and so on. They're developed once and they are rolled out to millions of users without variation or with little variation. Very scalable, awesome. But horizontal market software, on the other hand, is typically business to business software, and this is less scalable. This type is similar across its users, meaning companies, but not identical. For example, two hospitals could use very similar software in terms of the input and output, but they are completely different when examined up close in terms of things like which software vendor made it, where all of the buttons are, where all of the screens are, where all of the nuanced functionality is, and so on. Horizontal market software expands in features by serving the expanding anatomy of the business. If one hospital has 30 different business units or departments, for their operations software, they in turn will have screens and functionality that are grouped in 30 different areas. In contrast, a hospital that has 10 business units will have screens and buttons and configurations to match those specs. So horizontal market software is custom made to the specs and anatomy of its respective business. Likewise, in online banking portals, functionality will differ depending on the anatomy and configuration of its own business units. Horizontal market software is built piecewise as a dance between client and vendor PM consultants. meaning client-side PMs and vendor-side PMs and their technical teams hashing out requests and demoing the progress to each other continuously as the business and tech evolves. This often leads to in-house dev teams that serve the in-house business clients. A project could be something like adding a button that, when enabled, allows a role type to calculate an existing report with a different parameter enabled. In fact, this was one of my first projects at a transit software operations company on the vendor software side. And when a holiday hit, the payroll calculation was thrown off depending on if an employee was present both one day before and after the holiday, in which case they got holiday pay. But if they missed either the day before the holiday or the day after the holiday, they forfeited the holiday pay. And this led to a large amount of manual work by the timekeeping role of the respective transit agency organization, to the point where developing a toggle button with us as the software vendor was more cost effective than continuously performing manual tasks across 5,000 agency employees. And then this button joined a roster of other buttons, also projects that had organically come together based on business problems and software development solutions. And this is where hordes of PM consultants came in as orchestrators between business, development team, and stakeholders. And stakeholders are people who pay for the project, the sponsors, the executives overlooking the project, the technology team leaders, and anyone else impacted by the project. This means enterprise software is built painstakingly, one step at a time. Now, all of this is business as usual, and the above collection of activities is what we call BI-FinTech project management consulting. What about AI orchestration project management consulting? This is an evolution necessitated by the advent of intelligence tools. For example, my job board, where you can find all of these roles, works by using N8N automation platform that connects via an N8N IMAP node to my inbox. It's just point and click. It's less complicated than it sounds. It evaluates each job description by performing an API call to XAI, and the job description from my 10 years of recruiter networks who send me these messages on a regular basis gets sent to XAI via prompt for further processing and return. There's a link in the description to this job board, by the way, if you want to look at roles that pay $10K per month or more for BI-FinTech or AI orchestration project management. Then an AI model, depending on your configuration, I use Grok 4.1, reads the job description, reads my guide I have given it on how to interpret the job description. I gave it an AI strategy guide document to understanding job descriptions versus my program roadmap, and provided it a strategy for connecting the dots for prospects, such as how to get the job, what salary it might offer, and removing clutter in the job description, and just leaving headhunter emails and phone numbers in one place, pretty much normalizing different data sources into one clean, readable page. Now, this is all automated and near instant via this connection, all by the use of API-based GPT prompt. Think of API as giving a long password to a computer program so it can send data via code back and forth to another program or service on your behalf. It's a way for applications to talk to each other, even if they contain secure information. So XAI takes the prompt, processes it, and organizes it via little buckets called JSON classes. Things like recruiter names, summary of job description, salary, they're all extracted from the job description via AI and then put into these JSON buckets, and this allows it to be appended to a database quite easily. In my case, it's just a Google Sheet, nothing fancy needed here unless you're dealing with lots of data. And this G Sheet can handle 3,000 rows of data. So you can actually make a web app with just that. Or you could get fancier and go to azure.com, sign up for something like Cosmos DB, and it will figure out where the nearest cloud database is to the client and will load your data there for faster processing. Regardless, moving on. So you have your JSON classes, and they match to the column headings And the JSON data then gets slotted right into that column heading, appending everything into one table. What this means is this allows, via intelligent processing, near unlimited formats of job descriptions from various recruiters to come in, be processed, and end up on the web app. This would be a total nightmare before agentic AI automation. My recruiter inbox now powers the web app without 100 predefined ETL steps, extract, transform, load, and without needing various templates and integration breaking if upstream data sources were to change. Maybe a new recruiter sends something in a different format than what you formerly discussed with other recruiters. Amazing flexibility. So the core advancement is we can now populate database cells via a AI prompt instead of by code or by data scraping or by ETL, extract, transform, load process. This is a massive breakthrough. Then joining a web of these nodes, what then emerges is an agentic AI system. This is an example of my agentic AI-based web app solution, but it's custom built to my use case. Now, due to the horizontal nature of agentic AI automation implementation, where business processes must be translated into nodes that can talk to each other, this becomes analogous to horizontal market software implementations we saw in BI-FinTech projects, and in an almost identical fashion, this too grows piecewise with the anatomy of the business. Fundamentally, this is what creates the demand for a new role type that can lead and orchestrate this change for corporations across the world. These new tasks include agentic AI process mapping and deployment, custom AI model training and creation, evaluation of build versus buy decisions, and the leading of ethics discussions for fine-tuning and trade-offs of model parameters. And as companies watch competitors eat market share by deploying AI projects faster, currently 70 to 80% of them fail, creating a greater than ever need for this competence in this new domain. So as companies watch other companies win by wielding greater leverage through better use of tool, the same concept, Hammer's law, scaling up to the organizational level, they see the winners taking an outsized portion of the pie, and they are forced to try and adapt by deploying their own efforts. And this explains statistics such as AI orchestration project management market forecasts showing numbers like 5.32 billion in 2025 to over 20 billion by 2030 with increasing salaries. Firms will hire project managers plus AI strategists at premiums of 20 to 40% more for those that can help bridge the gap in this technology, even as silent white-collar job decay accelerates. The situation is that we are facing unprecedented times as technology races forward unlike any other time in history, where tech is converging into super tech, meaning as computers, internet, cloud, and their respective leverages multiplying each other's, resulting in a substrate that can feed this AI revolution, generating a scenario analogous to what farm tractors did to manual labor. The tractor tool automated manual labor, thereby displacing laborers. Similarly, agentic AI automates knowledge work, faster, better, cheaper, like a knowledge tractor, thereby displacing manual knowledge work laborers. And this is resulting in the white-collar job decay. The strategy then becomes to beat the masses by pivoting to a structurally protected niche. As Darwin says, the fastest to adapt survives. And a side note, this is why some definitions of intelligence actually use rate of learning as a proxy to intelligence, meaning how fast do you learn and then take action? It's a measurement of speed, is how intelligent you are, with the acceptance criteria being taking action. Otherwise, the learning didn't do anything. With all that being said, what I suggest after my careful observation is pivoting into professional AI deployment and orchestration project management roles in which the needs of the market implementing agentic nodes and models are met by AI deployment project management consultants who can liaison the creation of AI agentic nodes that are customized to match the individual anatomical makeup of an organization and its processes, thereby helping to build it out piece by piece, the new agentic AI enterprise software solution, just like the vendor-client dance we saw before in the creation of enterprise software. All right, breather. Are you still with me? Okay, so we can see that this is a double-edged sword, and we see that we saw this before, and we're acting accordingly. Now, this is not a laughing topic, but we need a breather, and this is the reality that we're facing. Now, you can deny and be forced to fight for scraps later on by ending up in a low demand, high supply situation, or you can adapt now and occupy your new Darwinian niche, as Robert Greene from the book Mastery would say, right here behind me. And you know what? I'm actually going to pull out this book because the strategies that I am recommending are custom tailored from specific portions of this book, and I do highly recommend reading it. It is an amazing book that I was mind blown the first time I read it. I've read it more than 3 times at this point, so I do recommend it. Section 1, Chapter 2, Occupy the Perfect Niche, the Darwinian Strategy. Okay, so that is directly from there, which is what I'm applying here. Section 2, Submit to the Ideal Apprenticeship, which is, he calls, a critical phase in your life, a second practical education known as an apprenticeship. And he builds up the case where most of the knowledge in history was passed down through apprenticeships, and it started with an Arabian system. So you find an established mentor and you join an apprenticeship. Okay, and I will reference one more section, which is, let's see if I can find it. There it is. Section 3, Absorb the master's power, the mentor dynamic. Life is short and your time for learning and creativity is limited. Without any guidance, you can waste valuable years trying to gain knowledge and practice from various sources. Instead, you must follow the example set by masters throughout the ages and find a proper mentor. Once you have internalized their knowledge, you must move on and never remain in their shadow. Your goal is always to surpass your mentors in mastery and brilliance. So this is actually what I applied when I got started. And this is also what I recommend to you. Instead of having to piece all of this together, take it from someone who's been in the front line for a decade and has put it together for you. It offers you leverage. And I just have a note here, which is, that is how I got started. I niche hopped from a very technical role to project management consulting by constantly interviewing another project manager, a friend of mine. We would sit in the car for hours at a time, and I would ask him many questions. I would actually record the conversation. I would go home, I would type it out, I would take notes. I'd come back the next day, we'd sit in the car again, and I would ask him follow-up questions. I did this for months, and that is how I niche hopped. So even though I went to school for aerospace engineering and I had certifications, I still employed this dynamic, which I believe there is a time for, and it is another way to gain leverage into your progress. Okay, now we shall resume. So your goal becomes to occupy your new Darwinian niche. And if you do this correctly, you get to live happily ever after, or at least until the next technological disruption. So you can either deny the situation and be forced to fight for scraps down the road, or you can occupy your new Darwinian niche. And I know which one I'd rather do. And those who want to join me can come along for the ride with a person who has already paid the price. More than 3,300 hours figuring this out, charting the map, the frontline trench work, and productizing 10 years of my knowledge and streamlining it for your consumption. And quitting my $18,000 per month plus consulting job, getting rid of my Porsche, my oceanside penthouse, my focus zone, in exchange for a basic office setup and doing 80-hour sprints and sleeping under my desk for a year and 8 months now without earning a single dollar. Funding all of this myself. That is the cost I paid to figure all this out and lead this trend. So why not claim the leverage and take advantage of Hammer's Law and leapfrog into the new niche? Okay, now you understand what the dynamics of the old were and the direction of the new is, and that the ebb and flow of progress in its creation and erosion of opportunity is a natural part of technology evolution. And if you're motivated, this is your time to squeeze in. It's like scoring a hole-in-one 300 yards away while competitors take 10-foot putts in the dark by studying things at random or doing small odd jobs, and then chasing shiny distractions or selling their time without at least a massive 10x multiplier. And frankly speaking, that is a failing strategy. You just will not make it to the 300-yard mark. And the reason for that is putting in the dark, you don't realize there's a big pond in the way, and this pond is 250 yards away. And the name of this pond is white-collar job extinction, around 12 to 24 months away. So that will not work. And I see online people citing AI is a bubble. It will not do proper displacement. But I'll give an example. This one tool that I quite liked, which was Chegg, and it was a great studying tool. It would take very hard to solve engineering problems and give you step-by-step on how to do them. And it was invaluable for me to learn during my time in my studies. Now, I'll show you the stock graph of Chegg, but the company has been eradicated as soon as AI technology came out. So history repeats. Wield the leverage or get displaced. Okay, so you're thinking, all of that sounds great, but how do you do this? Well, first, you recognize if you're on the path of tactical work that can be easily automated. Now for this, coders, I'm looking at you here first because vibe coding tools are now completely insane. My entire React website, the associated web app, the front end, and the continuous deployment infrastructure is all prompt-based. Mind-blowing. This forces you to join Coding 2.0, a crowd of lay people without 10 years of trial by fire experience that can ask GPT the prompt needed to put into the vibe coding tool. Literally, they can ask the AI to tell them what to write in the other AI to make the software, which is exactly how I built my website, using Grok and lovable.dev. Telling Grok what I want to build, getting the prompt from Grok, and then putting it into lovable.dev. You can check out the result. It's pretty amazing. It looks fantastic. So it has never been easier. So what is the effect of all this? The effect is this is accelerating the cost of developing software to near zero, or about $50 a month is what I pay for my subscription. So the value lies now not in knowing how to lay the brick, but knowing what problems to solve with the brick, i.e. requirements and solution design. So if you're entrepreneurially motivated, if you're good at observing reality and can spot inefficiencies and create solutions, then grab your vibe coding tools and make a run for it. This is a very viable strategy in the age of AI, which is why Scale AI's CEO, 28-year-old billionaire, says the next cohort of billionaires will be 13-year-old kids who started vibe coding now. A very viable strategy if you have the capital to support yourself, because you will need time to experiment on ideas, which is why I'm thankful for the consulting roles that allowed me to save up for all of my business attempts. Now, while this sounds like a great strategy, it presents pragmatic challenges and low probability of odds of success. Because when tinkering around, statistics show 95% of businesses fail. Heck, even 70 to 80% of AI orchestration and deployment projects fail. So if you're doing that on your own, you're going to be facing similar statistics. So if you love pain and if you love working nonstop, then go for it. But joking aside, if you are wired where you compulsively think about building something day and night, then you should go for it. Because if you don't, you will be more miserable than if you did go for it. So if you are wired that way, I do recommend it. Otherwise, it is a low probability of success activity. Now, if you don't want to do that, I argue it's in your best interest to pivot ASAP in order to avoid eating shit 12 to 24 months later when AI job loss accelerates. Simply speaking, those impacted will one day just lose their logins. And what other roles are on the path to AI automation? Tactical project managers, things like scheduling, cost control, meeting minutes, stakeholder follow-up, status reports, or the creation of presentation decks or PowerPoint slides can now be automated as well. So the value now lies in orchestrating the implementation of AI agentic nodes and custom model projects for corporation needs and their endless unique horizontal software setup, customizing nodes to things like role type, organization structure, while leaving the tactical work to the AI tools. Business analysts and other business professionals, subject matter experts, analysts, can be impacted as well, and likely are. If your role is to support someone who is doing tactical tasks, you'll be impacted as a second-order consequence for supporting these activities, especially if your task only consists of spreadsheet work, which is easily automated, just like coding. Since when you are clicking around in a spreadsheet, that can easily be translated into VBA code anyways, and that is exactly how macro recording and macros work behind the scene in Excel. So once they have been transformed, then coding GPTs can easily take over. Now, once you've gotten past the initial denial, I suggest skipping the next 3 stages of grief, anger, bargaining, and depression, and jumping straight into acceptance. Now, you'll know you're in denial if you are not taking action. And you'll know you're in acceptance if you are taking massive action. Okay, so what now? Well, you have to figure out how to squeeze yourself into the new niche. And this will be a bit of an art and not exactly taught in schools, because by the time it makes it there, the competitive edge has been dulled. There is a process you can follow. So you have 2 options. You can figure it out on your own, or you can follow the process along with me. But if you take too long, you'll have wasted your time and the window of opportunity will have closed. Okay, so how do you actually make the pivot? Well, what you have to do is you have to make the pivot from a tangential field, from a position of strength, without charging straight in. You position nearby on a platform and leap when the opportunity presents itself. Think of it like finding a waterfall and a rock to position yourself behind out of the current if you're a fish of prey. These fish of prey just wait there and allow the waterfall to bring them their next meal. So what you do is you post up in BI-FinTech consulting first, the proven niche with undeniable credentials there, and you wait for the AI orchestration roles to flow past. And when they do, you strike clean and decisive from a position of strength. No frantic search. Those that are prepared will have let the current bring them what they need with minimal energy wasted. So how do you do this? Well, first you learn all of BI-FinTech project management consulting from the ground up, so you know exactly what you're doing. Trench line work from the front line from somebody who's been there. Then you apply the 2-step formula. First, you need to know the right things. And second, you must bring value in excess of your competition such that you beat them in winning the role. Basically, you become overqualified, and then you step into the role almost at an entry level of consulting if needed, and then you niche hop as opportunity presents itself 6 months to 1 year apart, which is fine because you're a contract consultant, and usually that's how long the contracts are. Often they're extended, but you have the window to hop without much issue. So what are these roles that you start with? At the most basic level, you target project control officer roles, and you bring your triple certification pack to the table: project management professional, professional scrum master, and CPMAI, certified professional of managing AI, along with your decked out BI vendor grade portfolio. This lets you perform an easy, clean sweep against the other applicants, and once you're hired, making about 10 to 12K a month, depending on if you pursued junior roles or senior PCO roles. At this point, you can also target project management consulting roles as a project analyst, PMO analyst, project management office analyst, and so on. But you still need vigilance here, because once you get here, you still need to hop, okay? You're still on the wrong side of the double-edged blade. Now, the good news is, for these roles, applicants against you will have a very hard time competing when you bring in the package that I am recommending that you will get from my program, which is end-to-end consulting knowledge in the 3 approaches: waterfall, agile, and product management, and professional project management, professional scrum master, and certified professional in managing AI, your vendor grade portfolio, and so on. Okay, so you put all of that together, and I have a process, reverse learning process, where you pass all of these certifications first try, and assisted application, because these professional certifications, you have to qualify to write the test. You can't just write it. So you put all of that together, you bring that to the table, and entry-level roles will have a very hard time competing against the package you bring. Great, now you have found your rock, and you are positioned out of the current, right behind it. You have worked hard, now you're gathering experience, and you are waiting for the next juicy opportunity, which will be much easier to get, since now you don't have to chase so hard for it, and it will come straight to you. You're already AI qualified, you already built agentic AI tools and know how to lead model deployments inside out as a certified AI deployment professional. And if you keep your eyes peeled and are focused as you're working with the advent of AI projects rolling out, you will naturally just filter yourself into them from within the organization, as you'll be the top choice. So you'll pounce on these roles and you will advance as they present themselves, while you're keeping out with specific titles like Scrum Master, Senior PM, Agile Project Manager, all of which pay $15,000 per month or more. Okay, so when you're doing this, now you have strategically gotten domain expertise in AI projects, and this is at the gold standard level, because not only do you have hands-on, you have a certificate by PMI, which is considered the gold standard certification for managing AI deployments. It's fairly new. You'll also have the project management professional certification, which is the gold standard for managing projects, and I'll guide you through all of that. And then professional scrum masters for iterative projects. I won't go into too much details on those here, because I've already done that, but you will be a solid project management consultant with every base covered. So regardless of what an organization is doing or where they are in their journey, for example, their DevOps transformation journey, their AI implementation journey, their digital transformation journey, you will know every single angle and its hybrid approaches, so you can custom tailor your approach to the organization that you're working with. Usually you're doing a hybrid approach. Either you're developing a project where the program is under waterfall, and at the technology level, you're doing sprints, agile projects, but you'll be able to handle all of that instead of just knowing one and then showing up confused. And I have laid out the work as neatly as possible. We have really thought this through into a 90-day program. Plus, you meet with me as a group with other fellow students 2 to 3 times a week to answer any questions. This is your time to pick my brain, which is a good opportunity. You should really try to ask me as many questions as you can and learn from that. But also, you'll be part of a WhatsApp group, which I lead. And in there are students all going through the same process. And because it's in a WhatsApp group, the replies are very fast. So if anyone is stuck, solving one person's problem benefits the rest of the group, and I do that in the WhatsApp setting, allowing the group to move faster as a whole. Okay, now you are primed and ready, you are qualified, you are triple certified, you have a good portfolio, and you have AI real-world project experience. As soon as an AI deployment project presents itself, you will naturally get it and beat out all of the applicants who did not do this. And that is the niche hop strategy. And now you get to enjoy an in-trend market opportunity paying top dollar for the next 5 to 10 years at least. And you're done. And now look at that, a 90-day program that can give you better results than only having a university degree can, that may fail to get you good jobs. So how's that for value? Best of all, you beat your buddies who decided to level up too late once they hit the pond and they realized their 10-foot putts in the dark no longer work. So they switch to blue collar. They start a renovation company. They start a painting company, or they become the now cliche plumber, the savior of all of the AI job erosion. But unfortunately, now you're one of many white collar plumbers, commoditized and fighting for scraps, once again. So that is the strategy, and I have laid it out neatly in a 90-day program where I will download the roadmap directly into your brain so you can go back to Reddit or Netflix or watching UFC like I like, or skateboarding videos, which I like as well, worry-free, since you have effectively jumped to the top percent of the earning class by occupying a new niche which is favored by the current techno-economic market climate. So if you are resonating with me and what I'm saying, check out my job board. You can go there and you can see the different types of BI-FinTech and AI orchestration project management consulting roles right there for my personal network. And the recruiter headhunter names are there. You can even apply if you want to. There's no sign up or anything like that. And just mainly see if these roles interest you. And they're all filtered. They all pay at least $10,000 per month or more. And I will give you a mini roadmap so you have a rough idea of the process, but the module contents are not present. For the full module by module outline that I can compare against your credentials, I recommend booking a free pivot strategy session with me, and we can strategize your pivot. We can check your initial condition of starting and then the final destination, and we can see if this program will work. Spots are limited, but if all looks good, you can jump to the new niche through a relentless 90-day action-oriented plan aligned with mastery so you can move on to the next chapter of your life as a victor.